In this video, we're going to look at how Roman numerals work and talk about the secret of how Romans really wrote their numbers. Hi everyone, and welcome back to bambasbat. Before we start, I want to give you this free guide, 3 simple steps to instantly improve your Latin translations. It has some easy tips for helping you become more accurate in your translations of Latin sentences and passages. So go and grab that now from the link in the description below. It's brilliant and it will really help. So let's get down to it. Roman numerals are the sort of thing that everyone thinks that they should know, and that's mainly because people do still use them today. You see them on all sorts of buildings, companies, and events. However, lots of people struggle to remember the rules for how numerals work, so I'm going to go through these today. Now, numerals are actually really straightforward when you break them down, so we're just going to get to the basics. I is a 1, V is a 5, and X is a 10, so starting really easy. For all the numbers in between, you just use a combination of all these letters. So, for example, if I is 1, then I is 2, 1 plus 1. I is 3. Now here it gets a bit trickier. For 4, we don't use I, although more on that later. Instead, we take our 5, which is our V, and it's almost like we're minusing 1. It's 1 less than 5. So I've got I, 1, before the V, which is my 5. So 1 less than 5, and that makes 4. The same principle applies for the next few numbers. VI is 6, and VII is 7, VIII is 8. For 9, again, I take my X, which is my 10, and I have 1 less than it. So I put my I first, and I get IX. So 1 less than 10 is 9. For the teens, I do exactly the same as 1 to 10. I just add an X at the start. 11. XV is 15. XX is 20. So 2 10s. So how do you think I would write these numbers, following that pattern? If you would like a bit more time, just pause the video and press play when you're ready to hear the answers. So here are my answers. 14 is X, and then 1 less than 5, XIV. 16 is XVI, so 10, 5, and 1. And then 19 is 10X, and then 1 less than another 10, so I get XIX. So it's quite straightforward. It's almost like addition and with a little bit of subtraction, and they're actually called the additive and subtractive methods of notation. So now you can do these, let's have a look at all the 10s in Roman numerals. Take a second to look them over. Now some of the ones to pay special attention to are 50, which is an L, and 100, which is a C. So they're sort of our key ones that everything else anchors itself to. So try these numbers. So I've got the 10s in the corner, and you can always flick back to the 1 and 5, but it's just I and V. So have a little look at 37, 41, 76, and 92. Pause the video here if you want to go on your own. Otherwise, I'll show you the answers now. 37, 3 10s, XXX, and then VII is 5 and 2 1s, so 37. 41 is 10 less than 50 for my 40, and 1. 76 is 50, 2 10s, a 5 and a 1. And 92 is 10 less than 100, and then 2 1s. Did you get them right? Let me know. Also, here are some higher numbers that are especially useful for dates on buildings. So just to the right, I've got D, which is 500, and M, which is 1000. So using these, when was this building made? M is 1000. The DCCC shows me it's 800. So far we're in 1800. Then I use LXXX for 80, and finally 1 less than 5 is 4. So I get 1884. Now, there's a secret to Roman numerals. The Romans didn't actually always stick to these rules, this IV, this 1 less than 5. This is called the subtractive method of notation, subtractive notation. But they didn't always use these. Often, in fact, even on clocks today sometimes, you see the number 4 written like this, I. The Colosseum actually uses this notation invariably whenever it needs a number 4, but still uses contractions for other numbers, like 40, which they use XL for. Similarly, you can see 90 shown as XC, like we'd expect from what I've just said, but you can also see it as LXXXX, so 50 and 4 tens. Now, there are various reasons about why some Roman writers used longer forms of the numbers and not what's called the subtractive method of notation. Some say it's due to errors that would occur in maths if the subtractive method was used, due to the Roman way of addition. So you bring the Roman numerals into the order greatest to least. For example, 5 plus 15 is quite easy. You get v plus xv. If you bring them into the order of greatest to smallest, you get x plus v. If you band those together, you get xx, which gives me 20. But 19 plus 27 is more difficult, especially using the subtractive method of notation that we've just been looking at. XIX for 19 plus XXVII. Now, doing it the Roman way, I would put them all in order, all the digits in order greatest to smallest. So I end up with XXXXVIII. So none of these things combine in a way that I need to subtract anything, so I get 48. However, those of you with a calculator brain will know this isn't the right answer. The reason is that in the very first line, I had XIX, but I've changed it. So I had 19, which is 1 less than 20. But when I've moved the digits, it's made it so that as if it was 21, because it's just moved the I and put it at the end. So it's become an additive notation. So they didn't actually do maths this way. This isn't how Romans would have done it. They would have written it out long form. So they would have done XVIII for 19 plus XXVII. And you can see that when you put these together, they actually do form slightly differently. So I end up with 3 X's, 2 V's, and 6 I's, which come together to be XXX, and then my 2 V's become an X. Then my 5 I's become a V, and I get my 1, which gives me 46. Now, this is the correct answer. So this is why the subtractive notation, where you shorten, you contract the numbers, doesn't always work. So perhaps the longer form of a 19 will be helpful here to avoid the errors of using the subtractive notation. However, the main reason we do see the subtractive method most often is because the things that have survived are most often carvings. And details about numbers of legions or people or whatever have mainly survived in inscriptions in stone. And the main issue with carving into stone is space. Stone is expensive. You want to use the least amount of space possible for your message, because a larger message means a larger, more expensive block of stone. You're not going to spend an age carving MDCCCCLXXXXIII if you can just say NCMXCIV. That's perfectly fine. That does the trick. Saves you space, saves you time, saves you money. So that's the reason that the stuff that has survived is in the subtractive method, that contracted method where you have 1 less than 5 to be 4 and 10 less than 100 to be 90, rather than just writing out all the numbers. But for maths, they would have used the longer method. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, that you found it useful. Don't forget to go and download that free guide from the link in the description below. 3 simple steps to instantly improve your Latin translation. It will really help you out. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time on bambasbat.